Hello guys, let's look at some of the polling and see how Americans are feeling about the economy this morning. 32% optimistic and 65% pessimistic. And that has been, tracking the numbers, unfortunately moving in the wrong direction. 82% of people say the condition of the economy is only fair or poor. For the question, how it is impacting you in buying things like gas prices? 90% say it's a problem for them, 88% say groceries prices, and 81% say utility costs. President this week asked Americans to have confidence in the economy. They clearly don't. Brian Dee, the director of the National Economic Council, said that at the same time, it is important as Americans recognize the unique strengths that we have in this economy, the strongest labor market. Since World War II, unemployment at 3.6% and household balance sheets have been repaid over the course of the last year. So we now have the lowest mortgage delinquencies in 15 years and the lowest credit card delinquencies in 30 years. Those are sources of strength that are unique to the American economy. We have a stronger and better position to tackle inflation than almost any other country around the world. But that's what we need to do now. And the president has made it very clear that fighting inflation brings down prices is his top economic priority. He is using the tools that he has, and he is calling on Congress to pass legislation that could have to accelerate this process of bringing down prices without giving up all of the economic gains that we've made. He continued, "We are talking about some concrete measures to lower costs that typical families are facing. Take Medicare prescription drugs. We can lower those costs by allowing Medicare to negotiate for better prices, which actually reduces federal spending and reduces costs paid by consumers, lowering energy bills, utility bills with common sense tax credits, and reducing the deficit with long overdue tax reform." Economists across the spectrum agree that if we take those steps, it will be complementary to what the Fed is trying to do, not only have to lower prices, but also send a signal to the market and the world that the United States is focused on this issue and is committed to bringing prices down again without giving up all of the extraordinary economic gains that we've missed. We are hopeful and we really want to see something in the short term because, again, this is not just about enacting legislation, it's about giving some relief to families right now and sending a signal that not just the President and the Federal Reserve, but Congress recognize that fighting inflation needs to be our top priority. Alright, so number 1, lower prescription drug costs by allowing Medicare to negotiate for better prices. Now, what they may be going for here is something along the lines of the insulin bill that passed the House. It could pay insulin co-pays at $35 a month. According to the Mayo Clinic retirees in the US, they pay 10 times more for insulin than their counterparts in other rich countries. Number 2, lowering energy bills and utility bills with some common sense tax credits. And as Dee said, not only could the stimulus have to lower prices, but it could also send a signal to the markets and to the world that the United States is focused on the issue and is committed to bringing prices down. He was asked about a timeline since the Democrats are in danger of potentially losing the congressional majorities in the midterm elections. Dees did not give an exact timeline here, but he did say that they are aiming for something in the short term. With him on this, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, they both pretty much said the same thing in their own interviews over the weekends. Yellen went on ABC and said, "I expect the economy to slow. It's been growing at a rapid rate as the economy, the labor market has recovered, and we reach full employment. It's natural now that we expect the transition to steady and stable growth. I don't think the recession is at all inevitable. She also mentioned President Biden and Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Clearly, inflation is unacceptably high. It's President Biden's top priority to bring it down. And Jerome Powell has said that his goal is to bring down inflation while maintaining a strong labor market. That's going to take skill and luck, but I believe it's possible. On the other side of the debate, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers said that all of the precedents point towards a recession. These stressed that the White House is focused on passing laws to lower prescription drug prices and other costs in the coming weeks. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Joe Manchin have been meeting in recent weeks to negotiate over potential legislation to bring down prescription drug costs. Now, they are also talking about a slimmed-down Build Back Better bill. Just last week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that negotiations over a slimmed-down social spending package, which would also potentially include climate provisions, are alive after meeting with Biden and Schumer. He said, "I believe that I have the votes to do a number of things. 1. Prescription drugs. Reduce utility bills by providing for, I think we'll be able to get the ability to have a tax incentive for winterization." Now, when Dees was asked about this, he said, "We are working very closely with Congressional leadership and with the Senate leadership on that." Senator Chuck Schumer is working with his caucus to try and get a final package in place, and we are hopeful that we will see progress on that in the coming weeks. Dees also said that they are hopeful that Congress can actually move a separate package to accelerate the U.S. manufacturing of semiconductor chips and other critical supplies before the August recess, according to him. Well, that will provide some real relief for the economy. And a big part of how they are going to make all this happen is by taxing the rich. At least, that's their hope. Now, as Dee said, lowering prescription drug prices is one piece, lowering utility costs by providing tax incentives for energy is another piece, but equally important, lowering the federal deficit by enacting long overdue tax reform. So tax reform is basically a code for tax on the rich, since we know that President Biden has pushed for a 15% minimum tax to end the Trump 2017 tax cuts on businesses and on high earners. There's also President Biden's Saudi trip. Dee said, "What's behind this is a very simple proposition, which is when it is U.S. interest in the president to engage with a foreign leader, he will do so." He said in response to comments that Biden might look desperate traveling to Saudi Arabia since he's previously condemned them for their human rights record, including the murder of a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. Critics said that it's basically looking like Biden's given the Saudi royal family his stamp of approval by his president. They are not exactly a good look. But this was counteracted by saying we have significant interests, national security interests in the region, as well as the economic interests as well. He will vigorously represent American interests while also vigorously representing American values. These also talked about motivating oil companies to boost supply. In the near term, the companies have a very powerful market incentive. Prices are high and their profit and profit margins are high, and what we are encouraging is that they take those and put those profits to work to increase production. Then he added, "If there are practical things we can do, we are willing to listen and willing to be open." So it looks like they are waiting for just the right stimulus proposal here. The Saudi trip is coming up in July, so really it's just a couple more days for now. We will get more details on this and other stimulus updates in the coming days.